We're sorry.
Hello, Brad. Welcome to Talking with Famous People. I'm your host Eric. I'm the host of Talking with Famous People and the hero of all your dreams. I am the hero that you're dreaming of, as Peter Cetera once said. Now, the thing is, this is a live stream worth excerpting from. Which means I'm going to have to cover some topics. I'm going to have to cover them in fairly quick and solid, orderly fashion so I can excerpt segments from this and make little videos of them. So far, I've just been going back in time, clicking on horse mumblers links, but often they don't link to something that's a proper length of time. If you really want to excerpt a segment, it should be about 5 minutes at least, probably, right? So, as a consequence, I, and perhaps Rachel as well, should return serious and feel so inclined. I'm anxious from Jordan Peterson's lectures and stuff. Jordan Peterson on meanity. Well, I want that to work for me too. You know, I would like that too anyway. Is it necessarily going to? No. That's worth noting. One person here at the moment. Interesting. See, these are the sort of things that make me go like, okay, who knows what's going on, right? What's the URL of this stream? Let's see. Right here. Copy link address. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is go here. Mm-hmm. Go here. Here. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what I'm trying to do here is put this here. What's going on here? Oh, it's Trouble.
Trouble?
Trouble wants some food.
Oh, you see him?
Yeah, he's right here. Here you go, Trouble. This isn't a live stream worth excerpting from, screams everybody. This live stream's terrible, Eric. You barely said anything. Okay, fair point, but it's not over yet. Okay, so don't assume. You know what happens when you assume, don't you? You make an ass out of you.
And me?
No, never me.
Oh.
Only you.
Oh no.
Little known facts.
Can
Hey.
I be in the shot too?
Yes, you can. It could be in the shop primarily if you'd
I
like.
feel like I've missed everyone. Yes, I have.
Hi. We're really comfortable. How are you? All right, so I am hardwired. Like your spine to your spinal cord. Like your brain to your brainal cord. Hardwired into this computer, we shouldn't have any buffering problems. If there are buffering problems, they're unlinked to my internet speed.
I really think a lot of the buffering has to do with YouTube.
In general, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Winston's mom.
And hello, Alexandra Cruz.
Hello.
Hello in return to you.
Hello.
Please do, however, keep me updated as to the buffering and stuff, because
Yeah.
I'm still not really sure the extent to which YouTube's impacting my overall channel negatively and such. I'm attempting this run of uploads of small videos excerpted from. I can do a little explanation. We have Rachel in the mix as well a little bit, and do 5 or 7 minutes on a thing, and then we're gonna excerpt it and put up the small video.
Yeah.
It's buffering right now already. Well, let me know how persistent the problem is, I guess. If it's a persistent problem, then I'll have to address it. Okay, we're back again from the buffering, says Alexander Cruz.
Good. Thank you very much for letting us know that as well.
What I'm doing is hoping that people will ask us questions, and we can do a little explanation thing that will be excerptable for in the small videos.
Hair back in January. And I'm very happy with it because it's pretty close to my natural color. Thanks for noticing. I'm gonna make some coffee.
Okay,
Do you
good idea.
like some?
I would love some. Sure.
Okay, cool.
I think I have a cup right there on top, maybe.
Here?
Yeah. I guess. Thank you, darling. So, the thing about using horse mumblers timestamps is there's a couple of things about it. One, I appreciate them a lot and they're useful and everything to me, but at the same time, he does tend to timestamp stuff that's specific to INTPs. Sometimes I can generalize that out to INFPs or things that don't talk about INTPs, really. So that's one of the shortcomings of it. Another is that he doesn't really timestamp it with the idea of excerpting so much as notes of good spots, things where say good something interesting. But there's a big difference between saying something interesting and saying something excerptable, because you want something to be about 5 to 10 minutes long on a given specific subject, and then that's ideal for excerpting. A logo for Rose, good morning. You are the ferocious wolf. In this live stream, I'm asking the guests here present, should they feel so inclined, to ask whatever questions they might have about whatever topics, so as to allow me to, me and Rachel as well, to explain something and offers our thoughts about it, and then I can excerpt it later. I think this might be a fairly, I want to see how it works, but I think it might be a fairly easy way to right. I didn't just upload it, but it just published. Yeah, right. Well, I didn't ask him to timestamp ever originally. He was just timestamping because he's a nice guy or whatever. But outside of your which dynamics? What kind of dynamics are you talking about? I want to address what you're saying, Alexander Cruz, but first let me address what Ella Feroz is saying here. Yeah, you need to quit drinking entirely, Ella Feroz, for an extended period of time anyway, meaning months or years. At which point you can reevaluate it months or years down the road, right? But you need to quit you need to quit completely. You're not in a, you've let what ought to be a firefighter become a manager. So firefighters, they squirt water on the house. The house is on fire though. So, when you squirt it with water, then it gets shit all wet in the house and ruins your furniture and stuff, but it also puts out the fire. The thing is, when you start having a problem with alcohol, what that means is you've taken what ought to be a firefighter and turned it into a manager, a general way of dealing with things, whether it's whatever its purpose is. And you're never going to renegotiate its role. It takes on that role as a manager, whether you want it to or not. You've promoted the fire chief to city mayor, and he's running everything as though it were a fire.
Yes. Well explained. Happy Easter, everybody who celebrates it.
Happy Easter, indeed. And Easter is a good day for rebirth, Ella Feroz. Make today the last day that you drink for a long time. Just wake up tomorrow and just go, I'm not drinking today. And that's it. Just one day, I'll be on here and mention it,
Yeah.
You just do that day after day for a while and see what happens.
Can I bring a topic back from the dead?
Sure.
The LOL lols debate.
Okay. So in an earlier video, this was back in the day when I was with Kimberly, and as I mentioned, I've been excerpting stuff, so we've been looking at some old videos. Kimberly said it's not pronounced lol, it's pronounced LOL. And I said, well, I'm pretty sure, Kimberly, that a lot of people pronounce it lol, but she insisted that it was not the case. So what specifically would you like to address about that particular dispute between lol and LOL?
Well, mostly I want to see if the percentages of people who use lol and LOL has changed since you've asked it.
How many people use lol? How many people use LOL? Or how many people use a mix of the three? If you are willing to answer this question, please put it here. Lol, LOL, or a mix of the two. Mix of the two.
Yeah. I'm curious. I really am. Because personally, I use LOL because I'm a native ha 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 user. So when I say LOL, it's like I'm a newbie using it because I don't use it very often.
You're native to ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm native to blah ha 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 ha.
Oh.
Or Raffala.
I was known for my blah ha ha's back in the day. Thanks for reviving that one too.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Matthias Sanchez.
Hey, Matthias Sanchez.
Yeah, what I offer you, Ella Feroz, as advice and general goodwill from my sources, part of the corner of the world, onto you is that you learn to celebrate quickly the reality of not having that in your life, not having to think about whether you have that in your life for a stretch of time. Like make a firm decision about it, and then you don't have to think about it. You just, if you want to think about anything, you think, I'm firmly committed for, I'd say the minimum you should firmly commit for is 2 months. And ideally it'd be a little longer than that,
Yeah. I say in 3 months. It's
Be
a good
better.
fair shot. Yeah, because like at that time you go through some trial and errors. And I'm loving that we're getting Lamau. We're getting a lot of mix of things. Lamau, LMAO, LMAO, yeah, seems to be the
I was never really a
runner.
Wahaha user, to be perfectly honest. I probably use a Lamau occasionally. I don't think so, though. I think basically I'll say LOL spelled out. I think in my head lol, because I mean I've seen like people doing it for the lols, right?
Yep.
You hear that expression plenty.
Yep. LOLZ is lols. It's not LOLs.
Right.
Bwahaha. I used to use Bwahaha on accident because I was such a haha user that I would hit the Bwahaha during something very funny. Yeah, so it'd be like, Bwah.
Well, Winston's mom, what's an example of FE data misconstrued? Well, first of all, I should indicate that what we call FE data is really either it can be FI data if it's an authentic display of emotion that the person is making FE with their interface attentional manner, right? So it's like if I go boo hoo 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 hoo, and you've got your attentional manner of extroverted feeling attending to my behavior and such, you'll say, okay, this person is in a distraught state of some fashion. And even if you're not using extroverted feeling, you probably observe that, but you may not really think it's relevant to your whatever it is you're doing there. So how relevant is this person's mood to you? Well, if you went there and you're FE polar and your purpose is to get them to sign this thing, you might be conscious of timing and go, well, you know what? Is now a good time? How are you feeling right now? Maybe I should come back later. You might say that on the grounds that you would think to yourself, if you're an INTJ, for example, you might think to yourself, well, how would I feel if somebody got me to sign something while I was crying? And so as a consequence, you might say that to them, well, maybe I should come back later. On the other hand, if you're an FE user, you're going to play a certain dance with them about how they want this thing interpreted. In other words, you're going to maybe say, hey, is everything okay? And then, you're not going to start out with getting to sign your paper. But in the back of your mind, it might still be there. By the time I'm done with this little dance, they're going to ask, well, why are you here? And then I'll say, well, I actually have this. Oh, don't you worry about it. I did bring this paper here for you to sign, but I don't want to bother you at all right now. But I mean, if it would just take a second here, just real quick, that's like an FE approach to the thing, right? Where you're really worrying about whether they're perceiving you as pushy at the wrong time or not. Mm-hmm. Now, like I said, as an INTJ, you might go into that and say, okay, well, I should say something about it. But when the person then goes, no, it's fine, then the INTJ is going to go, oh, okay, well, then I've got this thing for you to sign. They're not gonna realize that no, it's fine doesn't really mean no, it's fine. It means coddle me some more, probably, right? So it's like, no, it's fine. Seriously, Judy, please, I can come back. I don't mean, is there anything I can do to help? Can I get you a basket of muffins? That's like FE,
And here, I'm interested in what the boomer flag is too.
I don't know what the boomer flag is. I drink non-alcoholic beer, LO Froze, and it's quite satisfying, frankly.
Always doing / saying things at the appropriate timing is important, says Andy. I agree, and when I mess up on those things, I get full-time cringe like throughout my body. I don't like it just happens. I don't like to be that so like here's a pot of tea for you.
Right. Well, yeah, Zandy, I mean, that's very FE Dom of you. Always saying things, doing the same things at the appropriate time is important. Timing does matter a lot. That's very FE tool, FE Dom tool function NI certainly is consistent with that. Because you're saying, you know, always doing the appropriate thing at the right time.
Yeah.
Both factors. I don't think an SI tool user is going to say that. Or an SI done with FE tool, for example, isn't going to say that, or an FE done with SI tool isn't going to say that. They're going to focus on the timing aspect of it like that.
And here I am the last of the boomers, almost. So the boomer flag for us was the disco duck on a field of polyester with bell bottoms as our shield. My parents are boomers. I believe they're like right in the middle of the boomers, and I am great. My dad was like, he's like a really happy-go-lucky guy. He had a nice childhood, good friends and stuff, and he has great taste in music. And I really like the 60s for that. I like how much changed in such a short period of time, and mostly what kind of music came from that era. I think Mad Men is a great show as well, and a great representation of how of the shift in times. So I think, I think each generation has its ups and downs. Boomers are, and my mom lived the opposite way. She had a very simple life where we wear like paisley stuff, and it was very like free. Like you you don't have to worry about locking the doors and stuff. Friends would come over in and out of the house, sort of thing.
This is one of the terrible fucking advice. That's terrible advice. That won't work. Him watering down his drinks until they're barely any more than alcohol. Mostly water and no alcohol. It doesn't. That's not the point, though, Will Rose. The problem is every time you do drink, you get thoroughly drunk and pass out, basically. Right?
You don't want that.
And it's just because you just keep steadily drinking until the end of the night, right? The thing is, you can handle non-alcoholic beer. Because is it true that some non-alcoholic beer has 0.5 alcohol in it? Yeah.
Yes.
It does have it. Some of it does, some of it doesn't. The thing is, I know from my experience, I cannot drink enough of those non-alcoholic beers to feel anything. So it doesn't matter to me if it's got some fraction, teeny bit of alcohol in it. I've never felt any buzz from the thing. I do feel kind of sluggish sometimes after drinking it because it is beer, but it doesn't have alcohol in it. It's kind of remarkable. It's weird because what Wesley's mom said, it kind of tastes nasty. You got to taste the beer in your mouth. Some kinds are better than others. So, like, for example, if you were to get the probably the most beer-like one of them all that I've tasted is the Klaus Taller Dry Hops. That really tastes like beer a lot.
Tatum, it's interesting. She says, I can get buzz from the smell of alcohol. When I first was here with Eric and we were drinking non-alcoholic beers, I did have a reaction to drinking it because it tasted so much like the real stuff that my body had a reaction to it. But now I'm like, it's fine. It's great. Actually, I love it because I've always enjoyed the taste of it. I think it's smooth. It's nice. So,
yeah, Nicholas Watson, I'm 7 years into Gen X. I'm 71.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty deep into Gen X.
Yeah, you're mid X too. I'm cusp Gen X into millennial. Yeah.
So she's a little bit too young to be the youngest Gen X.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be about, I guess, 40.
Yeah. I say 1980. Yeah, 1980 would be right there on that cusp. Because those are like the people. Like I remember, I have a cousin who is 40, and she remembers like Cabbage Patch Girls, like My Little Ponies, like very 80s. Madonna is her favorite, one of her favorite artists. Like that's so cuspy.
So, for those of you who haven't heard, I am currently looking for a chatter to pose a good question about which I or me and Rachel can offer some extended explanation that I can excerpt for future excerpted videos. So if you have a question and something you want to explain that takes a little while to explain, I'm trying to find a topic that I can sort of explicate on for a good 5 minutes or something, so it makes a clean edit, like a clean excerpt.
While we're chatting right now.
Well, sure. I mean, if the chatters in here can think or inclined to, if they feel like it, think of a question they think would serve well for that purpose, please do ask such a question, and I will thus pontificate, or Rachel and I will. That's too big a question. That's too big a level for us. Why do debates make me angry? Okay. They don't. I mean, discourse doesn't make me angry. Responsive, it has to be responsive. Is anger and debate a healthy thing? I mean, anger and interpersonal communication is healthy. When one person is not communicating genuinely, is being disingenuous in some fashion.
Yeah.
In other words, they're not responding on point. Yeah. Look, the thing is, Cloud, you've got a certain point here. That's fine, of course. You got a certain point, which is my response to it doesn't necessarily serve me well. Doesn't necessarily serve me especially well. But one factor to remember, I think it's significant, is that I'm not getting angry at good points, you know? I'm not getting angry because somebody's making a good logical point that beats me and engaging fairly with me or talking to me like they're human. If people can't admit basic facts and shit, then it's frustrating to me. It's a waste of my time, frankly. I'm not doing debates because people I'm talking to aren't really interested in debating me. They're interested in telling me why I'm wrong and not listening. But I do listen to them and I ask them questions. And you can tell they don't care about what's right or wrong because they're not asking questions. And they're not setting frames and stuff.
I want to answer. I think that Xanthi has a good question. She says, NFJ and loneliness.
Well, that's a good question.
Know what to do in general?
Let me pour these coffees and then Rachel and I will address it.
Yeah, I mean, find an INFJ friend. I had an ENFJ friend growing up, and I think we met through like our parents, but it was a really good relationship because she brought me out. Like she always had ideas, like plans what to do. But like maybe go to like social places like Starbucks or like maybe like a local bar that you're interested in, like a high class one or whatever. You know, I don't know. Journal, meditations really help. Yoga. Listening to YouTube out loud can be helpful as well.
I would say, Xanthi, in response to that,
This is for you.
That the question of NFJ loneliness is an interesting one and revelatory of a couple of different things. So So it's the case that NFJs are not going to be perceived as lonely by other people generally. Yeah. They're going to be perceived as happy, well put together people, and they're going to be perceived as socially successful in general. Certainly, they're going to be liked. The problem is life doesn't always afford NFJs the position that they would like to be in to avoid loneliness. So INFJs, they want an extremely decided social situation. In other words, they want to sort of sculpt and shape and enter into that social situation according to their own metrics and expectations. Rachel was telling me the other day about how she used to get all super ready for birthday parties, and then when they arrive at the birthday party, she'd cry so much that her mother would have to go into the party with her because she didn't want to handle the real time aspect of it, just the sort of ideational aspects of it. Yeah. Now, for ENFJs, part of the issue is they're not necessarily in positions where they can operate with their intuition all the time like they'd like to. They're polar SI, but for women, ENFJs especially, there's a lot of expectations for women that they do certain kinds of things that are really SI kind of things, like cooking, cleaning, stuff like that. That's good coffee.
I knew an ENFJ who liked to work with vegetables and greenery and flowers and get her hands into the dirt. And that was very soothing for her. Music was always a big one too. She was like, yeah.
So on the loneliness issue, then it's an interesting point, because I think what you're really saying there when the ENFJ is feeling lonely is that they're not having the kind of social interaction they want to have, or it's not playing out the way they'd like it to play out. It's like, both INFJ and ENFJ need intuitive comrades to engage with, because the FE and the 1 or the 2 means they're going to shape their behavior to the people around them. If the people around them are sensors, they're going to always be constraining themselves, making themselves more sensor-like than they really are, and feeling resentful about it. And then they're going to pull away from those people, and then they're going to feel lonely, like they don't fit in. Aren't that many intuitives in the world? Some places you get little pockets of them, but
I think ENFJs too, like smaller company, like maybe a total of 4 max. Like that way they can have people at their house. Because I know that they like to have people over for like social gatherings, but not to be like, not too many, mostly close friends.
You're talking about ENFJs?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that ENFJs have a desire to, like I said, engage with other people intuitively. So if they're going to have a group of people over, they want to have talkers over who want to sit down and chat about ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
They don't want to have necessarily. I mean, the thing is, they do have a third slot SE. They feel satisfaction with that, but it's gonna. Well, I mean, they're kind of conflicted in that regard. They're basically intuitives, and then they've got expert sensing as a third slot kind of absolute value, but that's selfish. They'd like to do the expert sensing. They'd like to say, "Let's do this, guys," and as they see fit. But ultimately, if they've got a bunch of sensors over who come over, and instead of letting the ENFJ selfishly use the SE like they want, they impose SE on the shit, then Sandy's going to feel like this is bullshit. I don't like this. This isn't fun. And you people aren't fun. And you people don't get it. I don't want to have another barbecue with more carne fucking asada.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying, Sandy? Are you tired of your Mexican barbecues?
Yeah.
Heaven forbid, your SFJ culture is going to freak out at you. Okay, so another question up here that says we are fielding questions tonight for the purposes of providing answers.
Yeah.
There was another question here that said
maybe setting a goal for each day too. Like if there's something that you wanted to do but now actually have the chance to do because it's like you're in lockdown because of the coronavirus, maybe set yourself a goal to do something.
Okay, so I want to answer this question about all right, well, let me answer Irina Naksinski's question first. Irina Naksinski says, Eric, how do you know who is right about getting a type right? In other words, which typologist should you trust with your typing, and whether or not you should, how much faith should you put in their conclusions? Well, I mean, if I were going to advise some questions to ask of your prospective typologist, I would say, first of all, what is it exactly you think personality type is, and how your explanation, what kind of explanation do you have of it? In other words, are you mostly talking about correlates, like type descriptions? Are you going to be sort of matching up my self-report? Like, I'd ask how it is that they are going to go about typing.
That's the most important thing.
Well, that's the first question I would ask. Or I'd maybe phrase it as, what comprises a successful way to type, or how do we what method are you going to use to distinguish between things, etc. So if you were to ask me that question, I would say, well, I'm going to use a lot of different kinds of questions. I can articulate all the specific kinds of questions we're going to use. And I can make the distinction and say, well, these kind of questions are skills analyses, and these kind of questions are self-reporting, and these kind of questions are value questions, also self-reporting potentially, or potentially in trying to not be self-reporting. That is, they're trying to be revelatory rather than self-reporting. There's different kinds of questions I ask, So I would say, first of all, well, I'm not even saying look at the method. People might successfully type with different methods, but ask them about why and how they use their method. In other words, okay, so if you want to use, for example, a visual typing method, how does that differ from the other typing methods, and why is it preferable? Are good questions to ask, because they don't know how it's different, or they don't know that it's a different kind of approach to typing somebody. Somebody might well use visual typing to successfully get a person's type right, but can they justify it to you after the fact? In other words, when they explain to you why you're that type, they can describe your eye movement and your little lip movements and facial look and all kinds of things like that, but they can't explain why that means you're a mia. So what they could do potentially is convey to you, well, I always correlate these particular kinds of things with this type and these particular kinds of displays with this type. But if you're asking them, well, why do they display that way instead of some other way, there's not any answer to that.
I'd like to answer Tatum's question.
Sure.
She asks, how do you get the attention of an ESFJ male? And I would suggest that the best place to meet them is online through dating apps. He's probably going to show interest in you first, possibly, depending on your picture. They like humor in their in your interactions and stuff. And then if you get a date with them, if you get a date with an ESFJ, let them do most of the talking. Ask questions. If they talk about the friends, ask questions about the friends. If they talk about the family, talk about their family. And then also, if anything they say you agree with, talk about that as well. So say the ESFJ talks about how much they like The Big Bang Theory, and you watch that too. That's a really good point to jump in and talk to them. And the more engaged you are and the more engaged they seem to be, you got them.
Mm.
Definitely let them talk.
Also, be delighted at their efforts and gestures on your behalf.
Yes, and
lots of demonstrated FI.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I
Yes.
love these.
Yes, and if there is like a point in their life that they're not too happy about, encourage them to know that that's a normal thing that happens. Be very soft and nice with them.
I'm getting to IAG last question in a second, okay? And then I will get to let's see. I want to answer this one first. Why do people think TE is objective logic and TI is subjective logic? And why do they think TE has to do with logic? Isn't that TI? People seem to assume INTJ is the most rational, etc. Well, I mean, TE does have to do with logic and the data that the logic is external to the person. So in that sense, it's objective data you're dealing with. But that doesn't make it an objective function because it's not really a judging function in that way. It's an interface function that's trying to solve the mystery of some particular system of dynamic logic that's specific to a given thing. Like the logic of this sliding door is different than the logic of this closing door. And if you're going to fix the door, the logic the way that I would fix this swinging door has no utility for me transferring over to fix the sliding door, which is a totally different mechanism and has a totally different logic to it, even though they're both doors. This is true of like every kind of system like that in the world. It has its own logic. Rachel today learned how to ride a electric scooter. Or maybe she'd ridden one before, but she got some practice on one today. And by the end of it, I think she was a lot more comfortable on it at the beginning, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's a TE thing, is like the logic of how that would work, both in terms of riding it around, figuring out the throttles and the brakes and everything, and in terms of if you wanted to figure out how to fix it if it broke down or something. That would be TE as well.
Yeah, one of the questions too, I think asking questions with TE is a very good thing as well, because the thing was beeping, and while I was writing it at first, I was pretty concerned that it was telling me something that I didn't know and then it was going to break down. So when I asked Cameron about it, he simply said that, that just lets you know that you're on cruise control at that point. So if you want to stay at the speed, you can. And I was like, whoa, that's so great. And
you can see what TE Polar looks like here. She's mistaken asking questions about why the thing is beeping for a form of TE, when really that's FE. That's saying, okay, I'm not going to try to figure out why it's beeping. If I were going to try to figure out myself why it's beeping, that would be TE.
Yeah.
I'm going to just ask somebody a sensible thing. FE, that shows how FE solves the same sort of problems that TE does from a different angle. It's still dealing with a dynamic system one way or the other. For her, it's a dynamic physical system to which she defers to using her dynamic metaphysical system of asking another person.
Yeah.
So the question is, well, why do people think it's objective logic? Well, for example, there is a correct and incorrect answer regarding the scooter. What does the beeping mean? It means something specific and not something else. So in that sense, it's binary and objective. The thing about it is it's particularist and not universalist. So that's Cameron's scooter. It has this beeping thing on it. There's probably no other scooter in the world that has Cameron's. I mean, maybe it's common. I don't know, but it has a unique combination of things that Cameron's scooter has. It has a throttle for each wheel separately. It's got so you can double throttle or single throttle. It's got hand brakes. It's got a back foot brake with a fender on it, and it's got this cruise control thing he set up, and it's got it's got a very ISTJ kind of pieced together look to it. Now, the thing about that is, what makes it subjective is simply a matter of whether or not what you want to do. It's like, does it matter to me that this door over here is sticky? Yeah, it does kind of. I'd like it to slide open more easily, to be able, if I can open it with one hand instead of having to use two hands to open it. And so I'm sort of mulling over how to, I've already tried oiling it one time. That didn't seem to work at all. But that's a sort of problem that TE would attempt to address one way or the other, or decide potentially that it's not worth it. If the fix on the door, the sliding door, is very complicated and is a big deal and a big cost and expenditure and time expenditure and stuff, then my good TE says, okay, this isn't worth fixing, because good TE calculates the effectiveness or efficiency of resource expenditures in response to, in terms of, is this worth the outcome ultimately? Good FITE understandings are those that say, I want this massive thing, but given that I'm not going to be able to get exactly everything I want this, this, and this instead. That's good FITE. It's knowing exactly what you want from among the things you can get, which things you're comfortable giving up, and which things you say, well, that's a deal breaker, then I don't want any of this at all anymore. It's like that kind of thing is an FITE calculation that shows why it's subjective in its framing, particularist in its specifics, but objective in its data and its sort of binary realities. You know, the door is either sticky or it's not. I've either successfully fixed it or I haven't. Okay, there was another good question down here. And see, but just to finish this up, that's one of the problems with the way people understand TI in general is that TI and TE in general is that they think that, okay, well, why is TI subjective? Well, it's because it's within the subject. It's introverted, whereas TE is extroverted. So introverted logic is subjective, it's of the subject. Well, that's not how we use those words at all, of course. If you want to know which of them are of the subject, well, they're both of the subject. The attentional manners don't exist outside of you. That data might, but it's not the case that you can only be objective about you can only be objective in dealing with data on its own field in some sense. That you can only be objective when you have concrete data in front of you, such as the door is still broken, right? But that's not the case. You can be objective about ideas and words as well, about statuses, about justifications, and lots of other things. And the way we meaningfully use the term is interested or disinterested calculus. If you're being subjective, it means you're biased. You're letting your own feelings drive to you what you affirm or negate. If you're being objective, it means you're pretending as though you are a disinterested calculus, or perhaps genuinely are a disinterested calculus. I have no skin in the game either way, but I'm just going to do the most fair calculation I can on how and why one person is correct and one person is incorrect in this dispute. So that's disinterested calculation. That's objectivity as it's normally used. And that's consistent with introvert thinking, not with extrovert thinking, because extrovert thinking necessarily begins its calculations with what it wants to attain, what problem it wants to solve, what its goal is. Okay, so now, when social norms are disregarded, even though I don't care or even notice, should I take this instance of disregardation into consideration? I mean, you can always use them against the person later if they've crossed some sort of line. You can preserve that card and play it when appropriate to snap back at them, you know. Okay, let's see. As an INTP, why do I tend to shut myself off from everything and everyone for days, sometimes weeks at a time? Because you get caught up in playing. You get caught up in ideating. Why is any tool the worst tool function? Because it never is satisfied with deciding and following through on anything. It always wants more deliberation time because there are always more possible interpretations and ideas that you need to articulate and lay out before you feel like things have been fully deliberated. And so as a consequence, you're operating in a world where you assume everybody lives in this conditional time frame of turn-based time. I love you, Rachel.
I love you, Ed.
And that everything will remain unchanged while you sit quietly and deliberate it all out, waiting for you to get back and take the action you finally decided upon. Well, of course, then the world changes and you have to reset your whole deliberation process. You never get around to actually taking the action and executing any particular decision because you're always trying to deliberate out all the potentialities associated with it with your any tool function. It's worse than being an NE DOM in that regard. That's why you have SE polar instead of eighth like me.
I have an idea.
There's this IXTJ red pill YouTuber, Alpha Male Strategies.
For Easter.
Sure. Alpha Male Strategies, and it made me think that IXTJs in general really should start YouTube channels. Well, I mean, I think red pill alpha male strategies are stupid as hell.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, well, people get upset if you don't give them the FE they want, Alexandra.
The night of Easter and all throughout the house.
What is the nature of TI's tendency to ignore facts it has not decided to accept as part of its universe of first principles? What is that? Well, Winter, I would say that you're misrepresenting what's going on there. What's going on there is TI's desire to answer the questions separately. So, for example, I have no problem discussing the utility or teleology of something, but let's address the first question first, and then we can address the second question. Certain elements are relevant to the initial question, and certain elements are only relevant after the first question has been answered. We can articulate reasons why certain elements are only relevant after the first question has been answered, and we can point to the fact that in attempts to answer questions other than the first questions comprises an attempt to set the frame unfairly. In other words, to frame-walk everybody into pretending as though the reality of things were other than it were. There's an order of operations here, basically, and people who have TI basically anywhere on the backside, sometimes fourth slot too, can be incredible from a TI user's perspective, can be incredibly selfish in expecting their arbitrary whim to justify things. And we know it's arbitrary because it's not applied consistently across different things. So if that's the first principle. Well, it's basically saying, when FI users come and try to talk universals with TI users, there's no fundamental understanding of a need for reciprocity. I get when we're talking about FI stuff that it's not okay for me to say your feelings are the problem. You need to repress those and be more logical. I understand that, right? But FI people tend to come in here and want to argue TI matters, but not uphold reciprocal burdens. I'm upholding my end of the TI bargain. In other words, I'm not saying things that are contradictory. I'm not trying to deal with things out of order. I'm not trying to frame walk people. So I expect others to do the same. The fact is, for people who don't understand the nuances of TI, they might conclude that we're ignoring facts that we haven't accepted as part of first principles or something. No, what we're saying is you have to use words the same as everybody else. You don't get to use them as clubs to bash people over the head with without getting bashed back yourself. Yes, that's bashing. Yeah, you don't think it's bashing because you have your beliefs behind it, but you're bashing everybody over the head with your club when you're arguing things that don't justify it all. You're saying, I don't care that I am wrong. You have to do this too. Because you're arguing about public shit, public policy advocacy and things. I want to force this on everybody. It doesn't matter if I can justify it or not. You're ignoring my facts, and you're just talking about ideas, and fuck off. We're saying, is it communicably, universally justifiable according to the same metric everybody should use, and everybody does use whether they want to or not, which is TI, because it's the grammar of communication. Response. When people are trying to infuse that which necessarily has to be upheld by communicative universal metrics because it applies to everybody, and they're trying to dismantle those kind of protections against the imposition of some people's willfully selfish autonomies onto everybody.
I remember when you were asking me the TI questions, I didn't say it out loud, but in my head I was like, are these trick questions? Because they can sound like that.
Yeah, they can. Right. Your sincere question is frame walking. It's saying, if we assume that in fact your attachment to principled justification versus dissembling by a language. Principled justification doesn't try to justify the ends with the means. It doesn't try to justify the means with the ends. And you say, well, that's not part of your first principles, then actually you just ignore the facts. No, I'm saying we have a choice. We can solve problems in a way that is principled or solve them in a way that's not. If, in fact, the way you suggest to solve a problem is an unprincipled, immoral way, then I am saying do better than that. Come up with a better solution, because that solution's inadequate. That's not the best we can do, and it's not adequate. And your half-assery shouldn't stand. And that's okay to say that. People don't like it when you tell them, no, you can't do that bullshit. But that's what the TI user's job is to say, no, you can't do that bullshit. And it's because it's bullshit. And if you keep trying to, I'm going to make sure you pay universally on a sort of communicative external level that everybody knows what a scoundrel you are.
I'm not going to lie. I think my DWI was like the universe TIing me. It was like, you need to stop your shit because this is a real deal and you could kill someone or yourself. Here's a little TI lesson. And it worked. So it could happen big or small.
Now, TI is, in fact, the one function that's not going to ignore arguments. FI users ignore arguments all the time. They are non-responsive to me. They don't answer my questions. I don't know how many times this morning I asked, what's her name, a simple question, Bluebird, which was, there were a number of them I asked multiple times, and she just refused to answer them. She'd answer other questions. She wouldn't answer my question, Does that make me angry? Yeah, because you're just being a troll whether you intend to or not. It's like you're not engaging in real conversation with me. I'm saying words that you clearly understand and you're ignoring them so that you can answer a different question. I never do that. You ask me a question in a debate, I answer it directly.
I used to get really upset when cops would do that with me. And I am coming from a background of loving police officers and public service people. But I don't care who you are. If you don't answer my questions, I'm going to be pissed about that because that tells me that you're lying about something.
Well, a lot of people say don't answer cops' questions. I think that's generally good advice for most people, that they not answer questions when they're asked by cops. But that's not my strategy.
No, but I was asking them because I wanted to know, what are my charges? I want to know. I'm okay with the situation. All you have to do is tell me why.
Right. Well, yeah, cops don't like to justify themselves.
Right. That's not all of them. It's really not.
The thing is, I agree they should answer those questions. But I also am of the mindset personally that I should answer their questions.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to answer their questions is because, well, either I did something wrong or I didn't. If I didn't do anything wrong, then there's no reason to for me to lie or otherwise dissemble about things. If I did do something wrong, then that's the problem. I did something wrong. So that's not the cop's not the problem. Then I'm the problem. And it's like I don't consider rolling a stop sign wrong or something. I have to have really genuinely fucked up in some way for me to go, okay, well, I'm busted because I should be because I fucked up. That had happened. I can't remember the last time that happened, but I'd have to actually fuck up,
ISFJ seemed very interesting. Rachel, how was it?
Thanks,
Thank
Osvaldo
you.
Ramirez.
That is very appreciated.
I will answer that question after a cigarette while Rachel answers the question that she was about to answer, okay?
How was it dating an ISFJ male?
Yeah.
I think the friendship was nice. We had a nice friendship. He was supportive of me during a bad breakup. But while we were I guess dating, he really wanted me to go down a straight and narrow path, as in work a public service job and be close to his friends and I guess maybe be his sober buddy.
Look, Rachel. What you need is to start being more of an SI Dom, you see? You just settle into a routine that you can really appreciate. It's boring but constant and familiar, okay?
Yeah.
Like me.
Exactly. So I felt very suppressed by that, and I broke up with him. I didn't care how often he thought about me. You're supposed to be with me because you like me, not because you can mold me into this idea that you like.
So he was the last guy you were with before me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big difference?
Huge.
Yeah, big difference for me too. I was also with an ISFJ before Rachel, and I'm more well suited to be with an ISFJ than Rachel is, but I think my ISFJ was probably worse than Rachel's.
Yeah.
And I haven't forgot about your question. Person whose name is Baldo or something. Is that what it is? I haven't forgotten your question. I'm coming back and I will answer. I'm still just smoking a cigarette, okay? Don't worry. You're at the top of the list, Super Chatter. You get top of the list priority.
Yes. And there is nothing wrong with routines and stuff. He was just telling it to the wrong person. I lay myself out. I'm I like to smoke weed. I have mental health problems. I'm not that close to my family, and I don't really have friends. I like to tell people. Thank you again, Osvaldo Ramirez. It's really nice. Thank you. So, I know myself. His suggestion was nice. I know it was coming from a nice place of being if you're a civil servant, you're pretty much set for life. You get.
Because that's what life should be, right? Practical, predictable, boring as fuck. You should tear your soul to little pieces every day.
Yeah, and I told him, I'm I would burn that place down. I would find out so much illegitimate stuff that's going on in the background of those places that I would be crying probably every night. And I don't like doing that. So I said goodbye. And actually, I was on a date one time where he dropped by my house. And I was in the car as Eric was live streaming, and I said I was I'm with an ISFJ now. I'm so glad I'm in the room with you guys. He's being such a dick.
Okay, so Osvaldo, let's see what you say here.
Yeah.
It's a good question too. What do you know about the combination of marijuana and NTP personality, or what would you think the outcome would be? Well, both types of NTPs, INTPs, and ENTPs are known for, famous for, and I think in general, typically this is true that they, because at first, like anybody else, we get very high, and it's can be disconcerting to some people, depending on the first couple of experiences. But for those who get in the habit of it, well, like Spacey was an INTP who lived with me for a while, and he was the first person I really encountered in a long time who could outlung me. His lungs were mine, but
too.
at 20 something, and he never turned down a bong rip, and we just bong him endlessly. So the thing about that is, I think that the INTPs and ENTPs, they like marijuana because it's a mild psychedelic, basically, and it changes perception in ways that aren't so well. It's like you can learn to function on it pretty well, and in fact, eventually learn to function on it completely normally, like I do, or Rachel does, or Cameron does. We all hung out today, pulled a bunch of bowls, had a good time, frankly.
Yeah.
And it really makes me happy to see Rachel enjoying little Johnson outings and stuff, and realizing that I'm filling in some capacity, thusly my role as an SE provider, because of her SE fourth, that she does need to get out of the house periodically. She's not necessarily going to initiate a lot of ideas like I want to go here, but she does want to have little things to do.
It's interesting. It's little things to do is more often that I say that. But, like, I want to go to the Arboretum. I would love to go to the Arboretum, and it's upsetting to me that it's locked. I like to smoke in the Arboretum. So
that'd be cool.
Do it one time.
It is your right to sleep with as many men as you like. Me? I don't want to sleep with any.
That's happy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. Yeah, she does have some adventure challenge, and we do go out and do physical things. Even driving around can often be satisfying to her.
I go on walks. I go on, like, mighty walks.
What was the point of saying why it was flawed? What did I never answer? ISFJs seem to have their external world mirroring their internal world. Well, they try to. In other words, they base their predictions on their experiences or their impressions of experiences. And their impressions of experiences are middling accurate, depending. And regardless, they don't necessarily generalize well. Some of them do better than others. You can kind of get the significance of SI is, let's say you build your house someplace one time, and you realize that every time it rains, you've got a flood, and you live with this shit for 10, 12 years. It doesn't flood the inside of the house, but it floods all around. You got to sort of dig these ditches, and you're always trying to compensate for it. Next time you build a house, you are going to make sure it's not going to flood. Now, the thing is, you may have moved to some place where it doesn't rain enough for it to flood, or that you're naturally on an area with a lot better natural drainage, and you don't need to make these accommodations that you would have needed in the old place. But it doesn't matter if you're SI, because your experience is going to drive your thinking there. I was thinking about this today, how the backyard here is designed so that the water goes onto the grass over here. It rolls down the driveway and then down this little sort of chute thing. It's not really a chute. It's just like, it's the camber of the walking slabs is slightly like this, so that the water goes down and it's slightly downhill. I thought, that's smart design, so that like all the water naturally flows towards the grass in that regard. But the other thing is, the very back corner of the backyard has always, for as long as I remember, and it did this year recently as well, flooded. Back where the tree is in the grass, it gets oversaturated in that back corner, probably because the ground's fairly hard packed and full of roots and stuff, and it floods up. Like there's a big pool of water back there in the corner. It does that every time there's an extended rain. It has to be quite a good rain, but it'll do that every time. Is that a design flaw of the house or whatever? Yeah, I guess technically, but it's not a big enough deal to even worry about because it happens so rarely here in Southern California, et cetera, et cetera. But that's why I thought about it.
It'll dry up soon enough, too.
Yeah, it'll dry up soon enough. And, of course, why did I come up with that example after I'd explained the concept? Well, because I'm SI, and the whole thing was sourced from that. So when I can't explain the concept, I linked back to my memory that prompted the concept in the first place, which was looking at the water this morning as it was flowing along the driveway here.
Oh, yeah, we went out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't remember when it was. I was just standing right there at the bottom of the stairs and noting that, if you look at the stones outside, they're slightly cambered in, and the middle thing is like this wood thing, and the water just kind of runs down there in the stream. So, that's an SI person, but fourth slot. So I began with the fifth slot NI story, which is using flooding of a thing as an example to distinguish between SI and NI people and how they would take an experience away and whether or not they would apply it appropriately, over apply it, or whatever. SI people tend to over apply bad lessons. If I had one bad experience at a Red Lobster in Texas, and I'm an SI Dom, there's a decent chance I will never go to Red Lobster again, goddammit.
Yeah, like overall.
It's just they tend to over apply bad experiences, whatever they are. They learn hard lessons and learn them stern and hard.
I would never go back to that one again.
Think about it, besides just describing that NTPs tend to be into it. I think that it's potentially useful for some NTPs to have some sort of head-changing thing to use in their temporal bargaining. It depends how drug-inclined one is in the first place and how much one finds it desirable. If you're inclined to change your head, then marijuana is the way to go. It's the only really sustainable kind of head-changing drug that you can do as much of as you want, and it's not going to cause you any problems, really. Now, that's assuming you're an NTP. It may cause problems for other types of people because not everybody's going to react the same way to every kind of drug. Some people don't have problems with alcohol. I did, and I can't drink it at all because it just was something specific about the drug that makes me have bad decision making, bad judgment.
That's a good thing to avoid.
Right. Whereas marijuana certainly doesn't.
Okay. Yeah, no, I've always had good experiences with marijuana to my, I don't know. I do feel lucky about that because it helps me a lot. It's always helped me, like, with my period. It just helps a bunch of it's helped with like constipation stuff. It's helped me like clear my mind. It helps my creativity. Like, I don't really associate it with anything bad. So even if I had bad, like an episode when I was using it, I still don't associate it with that because the good outweighs the bad.
Well, you've always been smoking weed, so
yeah,
you're not always having episodes. So
exactly.
It doesn't seem to correlate with it at all, really, frankly.
No, it's my sleep.
Right. But Alexander Cruz says, so if you're SI and she's SE, are you taking her SE needs into consideration? Because I've seen her taking her SI needs into consideration.
Do you see that? I don't even know if I am.
Think ahead about it. Like, I don't think, well, I better do some SE shit tomorrow because, but I do think, like, well, I mean, she and I tend to be on the same level of need to get out as well.
Yeah. When
she's feeling the need to get out, I know I always feel better when I do get out, whether I felt the need to get out at that moment or not, or I can't really tell, So,
and you're pretty spontaneous. Like, you want to go someplace, like, when the moment strikes.
Right.
Usually. And I don't mind that. It gets me out of the house, so it's nice. And I hope that I tend to your SI needs enough. I mean, for some things, I think you're better at it than I am.
SI is a little bit different than SE. I mean, most SI stuff one can attend to oneself, and it's not necessarily possible for somebody else to help. Now, listen, I've been in a relationship where I did get a lot of SI help in some ways, the physical SI kind.
Yeah.
Kimberly kept track of when I'd eaten, fed me again. She sort of structured a world in which sleep was more centrally, and these things are really simple things to do for myself. I can feed myself just fine. The difference between, and Kimberly didn't feed me that often. She sort of kept track of when I had last eaten, and then we'd get food at some point. Well, Rachel and I get food when we're hungry, and that works just fine.
I mean, I feel like that's what you'd be doing if I wasn't here. If you were alone, you'd just be getting food when you wanted. So it's like,
right.
And it's usually true that we're both hungry at the same time.
Well, one of the ways that Rachel helps my SI is simply by informing me when she's hungry, because chances are I'm hungry at the same time.
Yeah, and I love your Rai Rais. I know that. Yeah, it's good time city with the Rai Rai comes along. No, yeah, food. See, I'm seeing how much food is important for you as well.
Right. So, like today, I didn't eat any breakfast, but I had an extra frozen dinner before I went to sleep last night. I made it right before I came out here. I had to sleep out here because my shoulder was so messed up last night that it was very uncomfortable to turn over and stuff in bed. I had to make sure that my head moved with my body. Like I couldn't turn my head first and then my body like I normally do. So, anyway, then I didn't eat any breakfast. I had cigarettes and coffee as usual. Then we rode our bikes up the hill, and by the time I got to the top of the hill, I was just like starving to death.
Yeah.
I needed
food. And you told
badly.
us, you were like, we need to eat. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
I don't just get hangry. I kind of start to fall apart. You know, it's like if I don't eat, I start to fall apart completely. It's not just getting hangry.
Right. That's me with
sleep. And we both need sleep too.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm like that with food too.
When she's feeling restless, she conveys it to me one way or another. I'm pretty intuitive. I pick up on the cues and shit, you know?
Yeah. I try not. You know, it's a thing that I work on. Not being so restless.
I don't want you to have to be less restless. I want to do the right amount of stuff, you know?
Well, it's been working so far. So.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to going fishing again soon.
Me too. That was so fun. I liked seeing the fish jump in the water. That was so pretty.
Maybe we can go again tomorrow.
Okay.
I work Tuesday at 4. I put that there on the wall so I remember. See it?
We'll see. We'll play it by ear.
Do you see that?
What?
My Tuesday at 4 p.m.
Yes.
That's
for
work.
Good note for yourself.
Yeah, tomorrow's Monday though.
Yeah.
All right, let me scroll down and see what else we got here. So that's is a good idea to smoke weed if you're an NTP. To finish up this question finally, if you want to, it's fine. If you're not so much addicted to stuff or addictive in nature, then there's no reason to purposely go out and get yourself habituated to something. Now, granted, you never get addicted to marijuana, but you do get habituated to it so that it becomes part of your expectations of life, that it will provide you the opportunity periodically to get high because you just feel like a head change, you know? Hi, Anchor Jason Blood.
Hey. Ooh, cheesecake. Yum, yum, yum.
If there's any, I don't know whether to apologize for yelling at you or to say, don't worry, I'm not mad at you anymore. I'm split between the two. I you know.
What happened?
Well, I got mad at him in our quote unquote debate because he wasn't answering my questions fairly.
Anchor Jason Blood.
Oh, trust me, I've seen people addicted to marijuana to the point they claim they're dying without it. Come on, Alexander Cruz. That's ridiculous. Dying without it? What idiots say that?
It sucks. You saw how I was without weed, you know, when I didn't have it, like when I got home. I mean, I was edgy, but like, no. Trust me. You would not have it. It would not be like that. I will say it's not for everyone. It isn't.
Yeah, well,
I'm not
saying it's for everyone either, but I'm saying, is it the case people get addicted to it so much so that they feel like they're going to die if they don't have it? No, that's not possible. Sorry. Whoever is exaggerating the fuck out of her wanting weed.
Your own sister. You can I've heard that you can have a lot of weed if you eat it and throw up.
Conflict with Eric.
Oh, what is my lesson?
Conclusion.
That one, I do not like who I am when I don't have a lot of sleep. And two, that I'm sorry that it even happened. And that's my conclusion.
Wow, thanks, Rachel. You went above and beyond in answering that question and taking that approach for sure. My conclusion about it is much more generous to Rachel. It's that it's important that we successfully manage this with the right medicines.
Yeah, the medicine has been helping, guys. It really has been.
Yeah, night and day.
I love it. I love that you're telling me stories that I don't even know what that happened. Like me getting out of bed and sleeping and then getting back in. Right. That's important to me because I did not know that. And that on any other day, I would have woken up.
Until maybe your mutual blind spot might be making sure neither of you crash physiologically and hence emotionally, because emotional equilibrium is often related to physiological balance. Maybe. I mean, our mutual blind spot, well, we have different blind spots, but TE and FI. But I think what that's saying is basically that the nature of SI and SE, they're linked in some sense. SE is a manner of attention that follows through on something that's already been decided. And introverted sensing keeps track of what's been decided. So if we decide to go do something, or if I'll remember, oh yeah, Rachel mentioned she wanted to go out later this afternoon. Because I'm always thinking, what am I doing next on a sort of hour by hour basis? Like I don't really think that much further ahead than that as to what we're going to be doing on a given day. When we wake up,
yeah,
I don't know what I'm going to be doing that day. Do you? Mm-mm. Yeah, we just sort of.
You go with it.
I do my norm thing. I normally will just take some Adderall in the morning and start live streaming, and then maybe go back to bed sometimes. And I don't know.
Even at the first get-go. What made you fly for Michelle?
What made me fly for her?
Yeah.
What made me fly over there?
Yeah, did she pay for it? Or
no, I did. I flew over there to, well, for the obvious reason.
Well, obviously I know that. It's just that
that's why I flew over there.
I feel like SE people are more prone to be the ones who do take the action first.
It was cheap. Well, we had been, first of all, we had been talking and being sexual via video conference.
So you're getting fed up with it? And
I started looking at the flights and I saw there was some super cheap one round trip and I could get the hotel for a grand total of $160 for 3 nights or something. And I was just like, wow, this is going to be cheap.
That's lined up, yeah.
So
that's the reason why.
Okay.
And that's what I thought too. I just, I noticed.
Alexandra Cruz calling him out.
What?
You you're one of the jealous girls who kept talking shit about Rachel that made me dislike this chat.
What?
No, it's nothing. Never mind. We'll talk about it after the stream. Okay, it's not. Alexander Cruz is stepping up to another lady in the chat who she's accusing of being.
Means a lot to me.
Means a lot to me too, Alexander Cruz. I'm not sure if you're right or not. I'm not trying to make any claims one way or the other about it.
No, I love you so much. You're the best in the world. I never ever say anything toward hurting you on purpose. I swear.
Me? I know. I know. I wasn't saying that, baby. I was just saying that. I don't know if Alexandra is right about the specific person. That applies to everyone that doesn't share your stack, says Cloud. With all INFPs in my life, I had a lot of passion. We never get along on metaphysical level. We are like vectors that go into different directions. So Cloud says at some point above this that you shouldn't date outside of your quadra. But so is that your response to Rachel's answering your question? Do you have any response to her answering your question? Or you just move right along to the next thing? I want to finish smoking this cigarette.
I'm right, Countess Ariane. I talk so much shit about Rachel, and I'm just not into it. Thanks, Alexander Cruz. I don't even see that name.
I'm saying I'm not disagreeing or agreeing with you. I'm just minute. So you didn't even listen to her answer? Why did you ask her a question then, Cloud? God. You don't get along with Delta because you're Gamma? Rachel and Eric do get along fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thanks,
we get along better than fine. We get along super fine.
Are you fucking serious? Like, do you hear the ridiculous stuff that I get upset over? It's ridiculous.
Maximally fine.
You always apologize, and it's just really good.
How can you tell someone is narcissistic, sociopathic, or just a normal INTJ?
That's a great question.
Well, in my opinion, the one commonality between all people who one can correctly deem as displaying narcissistic behavior or being a narcissist, quote unquote, in the clinical sense, the one commonality between them all is accountability avoidance syndrome.
Narcissists?
Yeah, they can't handle being held accountable for anything.
Yeah.
They will run in terror rather than be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
They literally can't sit there. It'll drive them crazy. They can't even manage to sit still and put up with it. It drives them so crazy. So it's like you try to call them out on shit and they run in terror. Then you got somebody who's engaged in narcissistic kind of behaviors because they're displaying accountability avoidance syndrome.
Yeah.
It's the same. It doesn't matter what type you are, whether you're INTJ, ENTP, INFP, ESTP, whatever. It always boils down to the same thing. What makes somebody narcissistic is a fundamental, deep, underlying unfairness. And that unfairness is always going to express as a failure to be accountable, though they hold others to be accountable. You know what I'm saying?
And Cloud, if you didn't listen to my answer, why did you ask?
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Yeah, honestly, that's rude.
Mm-hmm.
And this is coming from someone who is very rude at times.
Yeah, Cloud, you just got called rude. Perhaps you should join a ska band because you're a rude boy.
Oh!
Burn.
That is such a burn.
Would you like a piece of aloe?
Eric actually has some.
I do. I have some in the garage. Rachel and I collected some on our ride.
Yeah.
I really liked watching Rachel interact with Cameron. I was slightly distracted during the beginning time he was here because I was messing with shit on the computer. And, you know, I was able to be slightly distracted because Rachel was able to and willing to. Hi, Dad.
My text isn't working. I can't send.
All right, let me see what's going on. Let me throw this out. Come on in.
You know what it is.
Oh, right. Okay. Who are you trying to send to?
Huh?
are you sending to this one?
I was going to text you or text Rachel, but I need to be able to test it. I don't know what to do with it.
Okay. So to Rachel.
But not to me, because my phone has been acting up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or to you. I don't care, whichever one's.
Yeah, that's better right now.
Okay. Here, there's stress. All right.
I don't know how to clear it.
Okay, let's do this. Remember, we have to close all those things periodically. Messages. Okay, just a quarantine message. It's fine.
Am I compromised?
No. I just say something got blocked. You know, one of those messages that says we have blocked something.
Hi, baby. I forgot you were here.
Open settings. Open settings.
Oh, sorry. I'll be right back and use the bathroom.
Okay. Let's look at it and see what it is. Okay.
What started it, there was a promotion, and I pulled it up. I was going to erase it, and it wouldn't erase.
Let me check this out. Okay, cool. All right. Well, then the next thing I would do when you have any kind of problem is to restart the phone. But probably the thing is, you're not sending messages because you're not getting hardly any bars. So you have very little data here. It's just like intermittent spotty reception for your phone. So if you were to stand someplace like over by the mall or something, it would send no problem. But right here is causing you some problems because we're kind of between cell phone towers.
So it should work now?
Well, I mean, it should work always, but sometimes it'll be a little spotty. So let's...
I'm just worried about that thing that it may have, but Norton shows...
load here. And we'll look at it again. Does it always take this long to load up?
No.
It was asking if I really wanted to turn off the mobile data, which I did not. I wanted just to make sure the mobile data was actually on.
I better go check some of my accounts to make sure they're not compromised.
This isn't compromised. It doesn't make any sense that you're just not sending.
Well, you told me that if the account was compromised, I couldn't send.
Okay, well, that doesn't mean anytime you can't send the account's compromised. I mean, look, if you want to find out, then put on airplane mode for a second.
What does it say?
This is about airplane mode, okay?
Okay.
I'm gonna turn off this. And then I'm going to try to send these, okay? There, they sent.
What did it say?
Yeah. Okay.
Says Wi-Fi disconnected.
Yeah, I saw that. Not sure why.
Well, what was that about Earthlink, as you said?
Open settings. Open settings. Open settings. God, this thing's slow. Open settings. Open settings. No, it was just an email notifying you that something had been blocked. And then one of those, an email had been blocked.
Yeah, they showed me that.
I was just answering your question what the Earthlink thing was.
Well, if you
You
look at an email, it said that they had blocked a virus thing.
right, that's what you had asked me about that, remember? Oh, you're disconnected from your Wi-Fi. Okay, let's see what's going on here. I know what it is. I need to look at it. Okay. Now you're connected to the Wi-Fi again. So okay. Now this has been sent. So test again. There.
What was it?
Well, it was you were connecting. It was trying to use the mobile network, but the connection here is weak on the mobile network. When I said use the Wi-Fi instead, it had no problem sending it. I had to tell your phone to use the Wi-Fi instead of the
Okay,
mobile
well,
network.
look here. See,
Has gotten rid of something that you don't want.
okay. All right, now, so then I should be able to go back to message now. And I want to, so I go over here and I get delete messages. All delete. Yeah. Okay. Now I want to email Delilah. Okay. So we want to no, I want to go ahead and delete that. All right. Now I want to
There you go.
okay.
Okay.
So we're good now, huh?
Yeah, you're fine. It's just weak mobile networks.
So what do
Go back to your old Wi-Fi.
the Stroud fan?
Yeah.
The Earthlink thing.
Yeah, I tried to go back to the Earthlink Wi-Fi, which you can't connect to because it's too far away from and it's too weak.
All right, but now we're on your.
Yeah, and now you're fine.
I'm blocking.
Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Countess is causing trouble.
Candace got in trouble.
Yeah, I'm putting her time out.
Okay, cool. All right, so your point is people have a psychological gap if they aren't in the same quadrant. I mean, I don't know. Rachel, do you think there's a psychological gap between you and me?
know what.
Well, Cloud's saying that there's a psychological gap between people of different quadrants. I mean, what do you think is the gap, though, Cloud? I mean, I find that Rachel and I are distinct from each other, but not at odds. You know, there are differences that are compatible or complementary. I am the question answerer. Apart from E versus I, E versus I, what are more differences between ESTJ and ISTJ? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, it is.
ISTJ is a perceiver, like INFJ and ENTP, which means it's more feasible in general to interface successfully with an ISTJ if you are also a perceiver. Now, what's interesting is that Cameron gets along really well with my dad, and he gets along really well with us.
And your mom, too.
And my mom, too. Cameron seems to enjoy perceivery stuff when hanging out with me and Rachel. I think that he enjoyed chatting with you about various things. I think that he enjoyed having an opportunity to have a receptive audience for any, which I maybe am, maybe I'm not, depending,
Yeah.
ESTJs are fairly insufferable in a way, but decent they can be despite their sort of FE failings, which are plenty. There are plenty of FE failings. I mean, what do you have to say about ESTJ, my dad, versus other ESTJs you've known?
Your dad is so reasonable and sensible, and he admits his mistakes. That's a big difference in most ESTJs that I know. Not that there's a stereotype that they aren't like that, but they're known to. I think a lot of ESTJs can be 1s and 8s, so they're kind of stubborn. But your dad's really not, and
he is an 8.
Yeah, yeah, he's definitely an 8.
I got scolded today. I got in trouble.
Oh yeah.
I got in trouble because this is his shirt. Okay, we got mixed in with our laundry. It was folded up here. I pulled it out. I looked at it. I saw it with my dad. I was like, he's gonna get mad. I just gonna put it on because I'm gonna have a jacket on over it. My dad won't be able to tell. Well, of course, I forgot all about it at the time after that, and then he saw me in it, and I got in trouble. I didn't purposely go get the shirt, mind you. It was in our laundry.
Yeah, it was in our laundry.
And Rachel can't tell if it's his or mine. She doesn't know all of the clothes like that.
Although, I'm not going to lie, when I saw the logo, I was a little confused because I'm like, I wouldn't think that you would buy from Carhartt or whatever. So, but it wasn't different enough for me to think that it wasn't yours. So.
Bacon, that's a good question. I don't blame you for complaining.
What?
Bacon's complaining about a lack of notification from YouTube. So let's see what other kind of exciting questions we have here. Again, we're seeking a good question that we can answer and explain. I can excerpt the explanation on. Okay, you got a good question for me and it hasn't been answered yet. Maybe you asked it before, but I forgot about it, didn't answer it. Ask it again. What type starts out the wild child and ends up the wise one of a particular group? Okay, that's an interesting question. What type starts out the wild child and ends up the wise one? Well, let's get rid of that last bit of a particular group. Let's talk about which type ends up wild one and begins at wild one and ends up fairly wise in the end. Well, I think any of the action types are going to qualify as that. Now, whether they end up actually wise at the end is dependent on how they grow over time.
Yeah.
But for any of the action types who successfully do grow, and that is to say, who become, I guess, more nuanced in their action, more willing to engage in deliberation and knowledge and so forth. Oh, Archangel, just because you got busted for crossing the line doesn't mean you have to throw a fucking shit fit like this. This happens with you all the time. It's like you cross some lines, you got checked, you got timed out.
Yeah, you're in the
And
penalty box.
And now you're like, you're never gonna be here again. Come on. Sometimes you're playing hockey. You were definitely playing hockey.
You were.
Okay. When you check somebody that don't have the puck, you get put in the penalty box.
And I told you, I said, if you call someone else stupid once again, I'm going to time you out. And what did you do? You did it a third time, so I timed you out. Those are the rules, just like sports. And you are in the timeout box, but you can't accept it.
Right. So the thing is, if you want to play hockey, that's the most important thing to note here. And Countess, you definitely do. You like to play a bruising variety of discourse. Then expect there to be penalty boxes occasionally.
Yeah, that's okay. We're still having fun here. You're still.
Your fellow TI users nitpicked it into something else.
Hi, Orange Cat.
Orange Cat outside?
Yeah, Orange Kitty.
5th slot to E versus 7th slot to E. I already asked this, but I had to leave immediately after starting the answer. I didn't answer. I will answer now. 7th slot to E is what IFJs and ISFJs have. That's polar to E. That amounts to as much blindness as you can have about the how to figure out how to do shit yourself. So the default approach, if you have FE tool function and you have TE 7th, the default approach to any sort of problem is figure out who to ask to help you with it or solve it, or how to solve it. You know, you're going to figure out how to utilize the dynamic social network of other people to get what you need accomplished. This makes, in general, a lot of sense in life for a lot of kinds of problems, especially more complex problems that require specialization and stuff like that. On the other hand, the other approach to problem solving is to try to figure out how to solve it yourself. So, but you know, and then you may or may not be married to that approach, depending on where your TE is. So I often will try to first solve problems myself. For example, if I'm going somewhere with Cameron, I've got to take off my my wheel from my bicycle, but I can never figure out how to get the brakes to release so I can take the wheel off because it sticks in there and it's complicated. And I would just go, Cameron, can you help me? Because after a little while of TEing it myself, trying to figure it out, I get tired of figuring it out. That's Cameron's specialty. Just let him do my thing for me, please. And then he does it for me. And then I go, thank you. And that's me going, okay, demonstrative TE is tired because I hate demonstrative TE. And the only reason I'm doing this really is for FE reasons anyway, because otherwise I just ask Cameron to do it from the first place because I'm bad at that shit. So then ultimately I go, okay, well, Cameron, can you do it? Because I'm an FE conscious user and a TE is my most conscious backslot function, which is to say it's demonstrative. Now, the question though is, what's the difference between 5th and 7th? Not what's the difference between 6th and 7th. 5th is somebody that's judging externals with their TE. So if you're a TI Dom, your worst nightmare is watching somebody else do something stupidly. So let's say, for example, you were you want to torture a TI Dom. Here's what you do. Stand behind Judy and using your words, instruct her on how to do something on the computer.
I had to do a very similar activity in my art therapy class.
Really?
Yeah. I had a photo in front of me and I had to tell her what I saw so that she would do the exact same picture.
Is going to find that torturous.
Yeah.
Because I want to demonstrate how to figure this out, or, you know, how to solve the problem, not explain to you. It makes another level of annoying. So if you go, okay, so take the mouse. Okay, now see up in the upper left hand corner there? See that box? Yeah, click that. No, upper left hand corner. Okay, good. Yeah, that one. Click that box.
Yeah.
No, not that blue. No, no, in the window that we're in. No,
yes.
In the program that we're in.
God.
You're not even in the right window. No, push Alt Tab. You left the window. No, push Alt. No, at the first push Alt. Hold it down, then push Tab.
That was great acting right there. Can I say something? That was me with a manager of mine one time. I was trying to teach her certain ways of the computer. So I was standing behind her with words, but the words weren't matching up with the actions that she had to follow through. That's so interesting.
The answer is on a skill test.
That.
Second is better than fifth, but not much. I mean, sixth is difficult to tell from third because six is demonstrative. Any way you try to test it, it's responsive to being tested in that fashion. In other words, the slot means it's the default thing that you demonstrate when called upon to demonstrate something. So if you're trying to test somebody's six slot function, you're going to get that in response. If I want to test Rachel's FI and I ask her some FI questions, she's going to demonstrate her feelings about things. So, like, you know, if I were to ask, how do you know when you're with the right person, Rachel? Can you answer that question for me?
It feels right.
Feels right, you know.
Good communication. I'm happy most of the time. We attend to our needs and wants. It's easy. Easy.
Do you experience some ghee?
Yes.
I experience a lot of ghee as well.
Yeah.
That's clarified butter, for those who don't know.
Oh, gosh, I love you so much.
I love you so much.
Butter.
You're my clarified butter.
That helped me out when my
Rachel's glory and beauty again for the first time forever, ceaselessly without stopping. So it's just something everybody has to understand, right?
So romantic.
Thanks, darling.
Yeah.
You're romantic too, and I appreciate your romanticness.
Thanks.
So INFPs have FI8. That means you're clueless to how you feel. No, it doesn't mean you're clueless to how you feel. I would say that, you know, the difference between fifth slot and seventh slot is dramatic. Fifth slot is an absolute value of external things. So you're going to be judging other people on their version of your fifth slot function. You're going to be judging yourself on your version of your third slot function. Love is wonderful.
Love is wonderful.
You've got 7 hearts. That's 6 more than me.
7 is my favorite number.
My hands are always cold and very clammy. It's a good line of Ironbrook Pentameter. Or my little hands are always cold and clammy would be fine. Better. To shake another's hand is... So
Sammy.
You could say, we go Tammy. My little hands are always cold and clammy. So says to me the buxom flirty Tammy. Okay. But why not just be with someone that flows naturally with you? If you compromise, you can coexist. Communication between people from different quadra is more difficult. I don't think that's true for Rachel and I at all. I think communication between us is easier for both of us than it's ever been in any other relationship, same quadra or not. I think Rachel's been with ESTPs and maybe even ENFJ. I think she was with an ENFJ. And an
yeah.
ISTP too.
Yeah.
So if you've
I've
been with her
involved in
quadra.
sexual way. I mean, like fun is like doing stuff together and talking and stuff. There's like an understanding between all of them, and going to social places make it easier too. But again, there's this like disconnect in a romantic level. It's just a mess.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is, I've been with 2 people from my quadra, and frankly, I wasn't very attracted to either of them physically. They were just sort of. Well, I mean, I used to sort of almost consciously not flash my PP. Okay.
Yeah.
I will. Here we go.
I put some lipstick on too, and I put it on because I want to see how it looks on me. So judge me.
Where did she go?
Oh, there she is.
She's moving over there now.
Yeah.
There she is. There's my PP.
She was having a stare off with the orange kitty for a while.
What a very special kitty friend. What a very special kitty friend. What a very special kitty friend. Kalunta Ashley Boo. I'm going to put you on timeout.
Aw, Sandy.
Okay. I played chess when I was a kid. Then I discovered the world. I played chess when I was a kid. Then I discovered the world.
Yeah, Pee-Pee. Oh, big yawns for little Pee-Pee.
Brief musical interlude. West Side. Representing West Side. Representing West Side. Representing West Side. West Side. Representing. I'm repping West Side.
Actually, I feel like you and me are a West Side Story.
We are.
Yeah. I would be a jet and you'd be a shark. Is that it?
I'm a shark.
Are you a shark or am I?
I'm a shark. You're a jet. We like to fight with the knives in the alley.
Yeah.
We still get together like wives and husbands.
In our story, we don't die. Because I really hate that part of the story.
We don't die. In our West Side Story, we stay alive. It's less gory than the real one where they die. That's why it's superior for you and I.
Ooh.
Thanks. That's some West Side Story rapping there.
Yeah, it was. The West Side Story rap.
West Side Story in his house. We're a couple gangs. We like to dance. We're dancing gangs.
Yeah. It's really helpful.
West Side Story.
Sad story.
Leonard Bernstein. West Side Story. That's a hit now.
Yeah. Leonard Bernstein.
Let's put on a vinyl LP of Leonard Bernstein's West Side Story.
Leonard Bernstein.
He made West Side Story. Leonard Bernstein, what a hero. West Side Story, what a story. It's heroic. I want to watch it. Watch those gangs dancing so violently.
They fall in love.
Yeah, they do.
They get together secretly. They don't want anyone to know.
Can't keep it secret.
And then they die at the end. It's like, what? All that
It
fighting.
was Romeo
all
and
that
Juliet.
romance. Yeah, exactly.
This sounds like a rock and roll song. Yeah. America, I want to be in America. Anita, skyscrapers boom in America. Roselia, Cadillac zoom in America. Industry boom in America. 12 in a room in America. Is that the lyrics for this? Or is that, oh, that's from West Side Story?
Oh.
West Side Story.
Yeah.
I want to be in America. Skyscrapers bloom in America. Cadillac zoom in America. Industry boom in America. 12 a room in America. America. West Side Story. Bringing the hits. Talking about America. Alexander Cruz, we're rapping about West Side Story. Leonard Bernstein's West Side Story.
It sucked a lot.
The jets are in gear. Our cylinders are clicking. The sharks steer clear. Cause every Puerto Rican allows the chicken. You better get out my way. Puerto Ricans, cause it's Puerto Rican season today.
I'm a jet, not real preppy. I come from a line of really white people. I don't like you cause you are different. I'm gonna bite you and probably stab you.
Mujin, I gotta say, I really like that question. I'm gonna answer it in rap form. First of all, let me say it's a very well-worded question. He says, Eric, what is the worst cognitive function for society at
And
large?
why is it FI?
And why is it FI? Well, let me tell you why, Mujin. Here's why. Because FI is the worst cognitive function for society at large. Injunctions on everybody's attitude and rights because they think how they feel makes them right, but they just don't know what their moisture says. So should we listen to their moisture when we need a dry solution? Oh, I don't think so. That would be unwise. Yet they advocate as if it were their lives. They're destroying with their public advocacy. Don't they know it's not appropriate for that? Geez, they should keep it in their interpersonal relations. That they wouldn't damage international relations. Chicken with me at the local place. Get me a soda. Get me an ice cream shake and a moat filled with French fries or onion rings or perhaps some ranch dressing. Yeah, I'm preaching it, Zandy. I'm preaching the West Side Story rap. It's a pretty badass beat, though, huh? Funky. It's funky. Boom, 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 boom. Sounds like a rock song there, too, at the same time. It's both funky and a rock song.
I was gonna say, I like rapping and like you to say that if you're a rapper, they don't like you to be gay. Ooh, can I try after you?
Yeah, sure.
I like Biggie Smalls, Alex Cruz. I like to, this is the way I live my life. Now you know, excuse my language. I was quoting a song. Honestly, jamming out. Oh, we only have one mic, I guess, going. Jamming out. Elvis Eric is jamming out. Host Eric is jamming till you rock out.
There you go, baby.
Yeah.
Playing with the guitar. It's fun, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna sing a little song, a little bit of song for you. This will tell you what you need always to say and do. Should you say the only things that ever come to mind? Or should you go instead inside and buy yourself a line? If you don't know the answer, how you gonna see? If you don't know the answer, what you gonna be? If you don't know the way, how you gonna tell? What you ought to do, steer clear of hell. You're gonna take the dog out. Gonna take the dog out. Take it for a walk. Gonna take the dog out. Take it in the dark. There are clouds the most evolved. His genome is currently going crazy with its evolution, developing all kinds of superpowers. As we talk, he's getting wings. He's growing hair where there's no hair before. He's becoming a man. His foreskin is gradually enlarging so it's a function as a parachute, so he can jump out of planes and float to the ground. These are the ways in which Cloud is evolving, surpassing us all with his wisdom, his intelligence, his brilliance, his deep, deep insights. Cloud, come save the day with your evolved superpowers. Cloud's like a superhero, crushing all the supervillains with his superpowers. He's like raining superpowers on us, making him a Cloud. Why? Because he's constantly evolving. I said he's constantly evolving. Constantly evolving. His case is closed, not open. Why do you think his case is open? Case is closed. It's closed. That case ain't open. He's closed his case. Stop trying to get inside of it. Your face looks determined, but I can tell you, his case is closed. Look at what he says. The hell no. Hello, law. Hello, law. N-I. Hello, law. Let's see why. Hello, law. Steve Jobs. Why? Because Steve Jobs had to die. Clouds evolve into storms, dumping water on the farms, making plants grow in the dirt. Clouds like that with a skirt, chasing skirts around the town, thinks he can. Imagine you're 25, huh? You'll be a god at 25. From regular human being to God in a set number of years. It's a miracle, Cloud. You're a role model for us all. You have light without clouds. You can't have light without clouds. You can't? I'm pretty sure you can have light without clouds. Hi, Chase McDude. Okay, dog, says Tom Dixon. All right, I think I want to before bed. It's already 10:17. I'd like to watch a couple episodes in Naruto if Rachel's
Ooh,
done.
I want to stuff my belly with this one. Have it.
Good idea. You should do that. All right, later days and better lays, friends. Don't forget to eat plenty of
Cheese.
and Lay's brand potato chips.